Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. The Jarek, or Holochess, is one of the most popular games of strategy in the Star Wars galaxy. Played on a circular board, the two contestants each control 4 to 5 monsters against each other using their wits. Now this game might seem a little bit more simpler than chess because there are less pieces on the board and the board itself seems to have less spaces for movement. But what makes the Jarek so interesting is that each piece represents a real monster, and each one of these monsters has very different attributes from the other monsters on the board. Some of these attributes include having different hit points, different attack power, the range of their attack, and their movement speed. Some of these monsters even have special abilities, like the ability to stun a monster or to heal an ally that's adjacent to them. The pieces here are what's important. Instead of just a bunch of pawns and knights, each monster can individually make or break a match. And apparently Omega is a mastermind at games like this. So much so that Sid uses Omega to hustle half the town out of their credits. Omega wins so much that she's even able to pay off Clone Force 99's debt to Sid. Which is a huge deal for Omega because all she really wants is to get back to her squad, and she wants to prove that she belongs there by helping them out. After their recent mission to Braca, where 2 separate bounty hunters, Crosshair, a clone trooper hit squad, all went after them, Hunter and the rest of the team have decided that it's too dangerous to let Omega come on any future mission with them. But it seems like every time Omega gets left behind, she does end up saving the day somehow. Whether it's winning a bunch of money hustling people on the Holochess table, or releasing a wild rancor to give your buddies the distraction they need to escape some Zygerian slavers. Omega seems to always figure out a way to contribute by using her brain. If you think about it, the game of the Jarek mimics real life in the situations Clone Force 99 goes through far more than just regular chess. Like the clones, the 4 Jarek pieces Omega commands all have individual specialities and traits. For instance, the Metalian Savrit piece is clearly Wrecker. He has the most hit points, attack power, but has very short range attacks and movement speed. If Omega is able to command 4 very unique monsters on a chess table to victory time and time again, I can also see that translating very well to her commanding the Bad Batch. Now obviously life is not just the Holochess board, but I'm really beginning to see why the Kaminoans really want Omega. It's not just for her genetic material, but she actually has a really brilliant mind. Omega is basically Ender Wiggin from Ender's Game, a child prodigy and commander who could help a small faction like the Kaminoans survive a much larger predator like the Empire. Now we actually did a video recently talking about Omega's perception abilities and empathy. We talked about how it helped her find a place on the squad and make connections with new allies and friends. Combining Omega's perception and empathy along with her tactical and strategic genius means that she'll make quite a military commander, which I guess makes sense because Omega is a pure clone of Jango Fett. And Jango Fett wasn't just some mercenary, he was actually a Mandalorian commander. At a young age, Jango Fett was orphaned and then taken in by the true Mandalorians. These were a group of super commandos led by Yaster Mariel. Yaster saw many of his fellow Mandalorians lose their way while pursuing their nomadic warrior lifestyle. And so he would implement a set of guidelines and rules known as the Super Commando Codex. It mainly covered how a true Mandalorian should conduct themselves and outright banned some of the more malicious activities that Mandalorian mercs were known for, like killing innocents for no reason, and at the same time reinforced the idea of always honoring contracts when you signed them with clients. Yaster Mariel was a charismatic individual and he drew dozens, if not hundreds, to his true Mandalorian cause. But the reality is, if you took that ideology away from him, what he was basically commanding was a very highly disciplined Mandalorian army. The true Mandalorians spent most of their time going around the galaxy doing dangerous jobs, fighting enemies, and collecting bounties and loot. Yasser Muriel stood in the way of one organization known as the Death Watch Mandalorians. These guys were more aggressive and wanted to continue pillaging and raping their way across the galaxy. Their leader, Tor Vizsla, would spend most of his attention trying to kill Yasser Muriel and eventually would succeed. This would leave Jango Fett in the command position, something that he was groomed for a long period of time. And for what we could tell, Yasser Muriel most likely chose Jango Fett as the commander because he was an extremely intelligent individual, and he would show that when he was in charge of the true Mandalorians. I mean, ultimately, Jango did lead his men into a disaster at the Battle of Galadron, but it was a setup and he was facing an army of Jedi, which is hard for anyone to overcome. Jango Fett would later on bring his tactical and strategic knowledge to Kamino, where he would be placed in charge of developing a training regimen for the clones. It was during this time period that Jango Fett would assemble the Kuil Valdar, a hand-selected group of 100 mercs, mostly Mandalorian, that would train the future clone commandos. So clearly Omega has the genetic pedigree to be a great commander and trainer. Combine her natural intelligence with her emotional intelligence and perception, and she will also make a terrific military leader as well. From the way she follows Hunter around and mimics his every move, I would go as far as to say that Omega is an officer in training. Clone Force 99, for better or worse, will also have to continue fighting and running from the Empire. And so Omega will continue getting real-life experience on the battlefield from some pretty elite-level operators. She'll definitely learn a lot more in the field than she would as Nala Se's assistant on Kamino. Now, if Omega does beat Hunter in that chess match at the end of the last episode, which I'm sure she does, it could be time for the Bad Batch to stop treating her like a child and finally showing her the respect that she deserves. After all, this isn't the first time that the Bad Batch has tried to leave her behind. They've actually done it multiple occasions. Not because they don't like her, but because Clone Force 99 believes that the situations they're engaging in are too dangerous for a child. And while Omega is brave and very smart, there are also a lot of things that you can learn from each member of Clone Force 99, including like small arms tactics, how to use various equipment, and other things. After a few seasons with these clone commandos, Omega will be a master at asymmetric warfare, something that another slowly growing faction in this galaxy will need. Now, so far in the Bad Batch, we haven't really encountered any rebel forces yet, and that's because the rebellion has not even been formed. I mean, the Alliance to Restore the Republic doesn't officially go into business until almost 2 decades later, when Senator Mon Mothma finally goes into hiding and leaves the Imperial Senate to take over the leadership of the Rebel Alliance. But there clearly are rebels in this galaxy, and they're all fighting their own local and regional fight. The Bad Batch even meet a few of these characters. You have guys like Saw Gerrera and his partisans, who were actually trained by a Republic for an internal defense program. You also had the Martez sisters, who were securing a Separatist tactical droid with tons of data on how to fight the clones. We're not sure who these girls are working for, but I'm pretty sure they're against the Empire as well. Lastly, we have in our most recent episode a senator from Raxus, former capital of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. He decides to go against the Empire and denounces them in public before getting detained. All these groups will spend the next decade or so finding each other and gathering in strength and gathering in cooperation. And so for now, Omega will have to continue developing her skills as well, alongside the Bad Batch. And hopefully when she reaches adulthood, she'll be ready to command troops to go into battle, because we know the Rebel Alliance are definitely short on good officers. So there you have it, guys. That is my theory on what will happen to Omega. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree with me or not. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.